Hello and welcome back to CBR MTG. My name is Angus McKay and I'm joined here by Jake Sims.
Hey guys.
And James Lett.
Hello.
Welcome to the show, James Lett. We've had you on the camera many times but never behind the camera.
Yeah, I know. This is a very new experience for me. Let's see how it goes.
And speaking of new experiences, we're actually going to be filming some Modern today. So usually this cast has been specifically for Legacy, but we're going to delve a little bit deeper and find out how Modern goes. For now, this is myself, Angus, on Affinity versus Ashleigh Johannes on Waste Not. Now, Jake, can you run us through Waste Not before? Because before this, I'd never even seen the deck before.
Yeah, no, Waste Not's a pretty spicy deck. It functions pretty similar to 8-Rack, which we're all pretty familiar with, but the main cog in the machine is the namesake Waste Not, which is a 2-mana enchantment. Whenever an opponent discards a creature card, you get a 2/2 zombie. Whenever an opponent discards a land, you get 2 black mana. And whenever an opponent discards a non-creature, non-land card, you draw a card. So, yeah, this is a red-black version playing Collective Brutality, Collective Defiance, all your standard Thoughtseize, Inquisition, Raven's Crime, and Burning Inquiry cards.
Okay. We see a pretty fast start from myself coming out with the Springleaf Drum Ornithopter into Signal Pest and Welding Jar. Slightly slower start from Ashleigh with the single Bloodstained Mire. Now, it's for anyone who's used to Legacy but not used to Modern, Affinity is a very, very low-to-the-ground deck using extremely synergistic artifact-based cards. Such as Cranial Plating and Master of Ethereum, where essentially you're playing as many 0 and 1 drops you can, and then you've got payoff cards like Steel Overseer, which lets you put a tap to put a counter on all the creatures you control, which is very good when you're going the go wide strategy, and Cranial Plating, where it gives your creatures +1/+0 for every artifact you control. So as you can see with the hand like this, with Mox Opal, Springleaf Drum, Welding Jar, Signal Pest, Ornithopter, and even the Darksteel Citadel is a land that's currently covered by glare. Cranial Plating would be very good right now.
A very fast opener.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very fast opener.
How do you find Welding Jar? I've seen some articles that some people just do not rate the Welding Jars just because obviously you want your stupidly fast hands, and it's sometimes just a dead draw. Like,
I'll tell you what, it's very bad against Path to Exile. It's sort of it's partly meta dependent, but it's very good against a lot of things, and also it's very good against push and all the burn spells. But for the main part, it's just very good against It's very good at being a 0-drop artifact that turns on Metalcraft, So it's mostly for that. But I've played around with the flex slots a few times, but always coming back to Welding Jars just because it really sort of powers out that opening hand.
So from Ashleigh, we've got a Liliana's Caress, which is another 2-mana enchantment, which is whenever an opponent discards a card, that player loses 2 life.
So we saw in Ashleigh's opening hand a couple of lands, a Collective Defiance, a Burning Inquiry, and a Liliana's Caress, Collective Brutality as well. Now, I think Collective Brutality is possibly going to be a lot more helpful for her than the usual discard spells coming from Thoughtseize and Inquisition of Kozilek, just because she'll be able to gain 2 life and kill one of my creatures.
Yeah, just sort of stem the bleeding a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Have you ever versed this deck before, James?
I have versed Waste Not a couple of times.
Okay.
I've found that it can be quite an explosive deck when all the discard lines up quite well. I'm unsure of how powerful it will be against Affinity, as at this point I believe you have no hand.
Correct.
A lot of it does rely on your opponent having cards to discard. So without that, it looks like Ashleigh might be in a bit of strife right now, unfortunately.
Yeah,
it's not all doom and gloom. I can see a Burning Inquiry in her hand. So even though you've got nothing in hand, being able to make you draw 3 cards and then discard 3 cards, that alone from the Liliana's Caress, that's 6 damage.
We see Ashleigh kind of deep in the tank right now, trying to figure out what her lines are. Now we know that she does have that the second Liliana's Caress that she pulled off the top, and also that Burning Inquiry. So I think she's trying to think about whether or not she's going to rely... Oh, we're about to see. She's coming down with tapping 2, so it's definitely another Liliana's Caress now. That Burning Inquiry is turned on.
Absolutely.
So if she can play it next turn, and it looks like that she'll survive only just because I'm going to swing in next turn for a lot of damage with the Battlecry trigger from Signal Pest, and the second lot of tapping of Steel Overseer, giving all my creatures 2 +1/+1 counters. But she seems like she's going to survive, but if my math is correct. But if she comes back next turn with that Burning Inquiry, that's 6 times 2, so 12 damage in one turn. It suddenly puts me from 20 to a lowly 8. So it might not be over for our hero. Ashleigh in this case. Usually it's me, but I do like a brew, so hopefully we'll see some spicy action coming out of Ashleigh. Now we're counting up the damage here. We see Battlecry trigger stands for 1, 2, 3 damage, and then we have Steel Overseer is 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then 10, 11 from the Etched Champion. So I think it's 11, but 11 and 3 Infect. 4 Infect. So we're going with 10, and then I think we decided eventually on 11. But something that's definitely made me better at maths is I guess we're sticking at 10. Okay. Well, yeah, I still haven't quite got the hang of the affinity maths. You realize that even though this is a very like turn your deck sideways aggro deck, there's a lot of thinkings that has happened along here. Surprisingly enough. Yeah, exactly. Mostly just adding up. But we're seeing the Burning Inquiry line here that we mentioned before. Me just milling 3 cards, Ashleigh sort of having a bit of a think about how we're going to discard them. Obviously by random, but she's getting an extra sort of look about what she's going to discard. And for her it's an option. For me, it's just mill the top 3 cards in my deck.
So what are we losing here?
Sibian Spirit Guide,
Yep.
Collective Defiance, and...
I think it's a Dream Salvage as well.
I think it's a Dream Salvage.
Yeah. So, Jake, what's a Dream Salvage for those of you who don't know?
Dream Salvage is a hybrid blue-black instant speed. Draw cards equal to the number of cards target opponent has discarded this turn. So, yeah, that lining up with Burning Inquiry would have been really nice.
Absolutely. Yeah, they might have actually pulled her out of this hole because she's definitely losing the game next turn. So whatever she does, like even I think we've decided that we're just going to lose, unfortunately, yeah. Putting me down to 3 damage in 3 life in one turn is nothing to sneeze at.
Yeah, that's quite explosive.
I mean, it had to, like, that was a turn 3, 12 life. Like,
Absolutely.
she absolutely would have gotten there turn 4, so it was...
I think, unfortunately, your deck was just a little bit faster.
I won the die roll.
You won the die roll. Classic mod.
Yeah, exactly. So we're going to go to sideboard here. From memory, I took out 2 of my Etched Champions and brought in Ensoul Artifact and Ray of Revelation. So Ray of Revelation, for obvious reasons, just being a 2-for-1 destroy target enchantment. And it looks like that I've kind of changed my decision-making once I looked into my sideboard because... usually when I'm on the draw, I'll take out a Memnite and a Springleaf Drum because I'm not expecting as explosive as start. I just want to kind of make sure that I'm hitting all my targets in regards to good spells. And usually I'm bringing in a Blood Moon or something like that, so I have to kind of think about what exactly I'm doing. But I'm looking through my sideboard here, and there's not a whole lot that I want to bring in.
Is that a Hazard hanging around in there?
Yeah, look, this is something that I've been testing for a while, and I've never not enjoyed drawing it because I always have a empty hand, and then I'll just play this 4-drop because I've conveniently got 4 mana, and then I'll have no cards in hand. So
it seems like a very spicy inclusion in the Affinity deck.
Very spicy.
Yeah.
What I didn't quite think about while I'm doing this is that I do have the Heroic Intervention, which is somewhat spicy as well, often seen in modern elves, where it's just gives all your creatures, it's an instant 1 green, and it gives all your creatures hexproof and indestructible until end of turn, so kind of good against board wipes. Theoretically, great card. In practice, I haven't seen it quite shine through yet, but it's definitely something to think about.
It does look like Ashleigh is bringing in a Damnation, so it might be a good inclusion in this matchup.
Yeah, something that I didn't quite think about was that she would be bringing in her own cards.
There was a lot of removal she's brought in. I saw 2 Anger of the Gods, 2 Terminates, and a Damnation.
That's a fair whack of creature destruction there.
Yeah, and me sort of like really getting punished for not knowing her deck well enough that I didn't see a Fatal Push. I didn't even see a Collective Brutality. So like I took out my Etch Champions because I was like, well, she's not going to target any of my spells. She's just mono combo. So
that's a fair assumption to make, I think, if you haven't seen anything.
Yeah, absolutely. But I'm not sure if she runs Fatal Pushes actually, looking back on the cards that we saw, but she was definitely playing Collective Brutality. And now she's bringing in board wipes. So, I mean, it could get blown out here by not having any sort of protection against that. Because Anger of the Gods is a good spell, but it does not win against a Etch Champion with Metalcraft. We'll see what we're drawing for our opening 7s. I was running surprisingly hot this night and very rarely had to mulligan, and I think this is going to be one of those times because I believe I have a Springleaf Drum and an Ornithopter and a Cradle Plating, so probably just good enough to keep. We'll see if I end up going down that road. Ashleigh's tossing up her hand. We see... we're going straight away, so never mind. We're definitely keeping these hands. I had a Mox Opal hand as well. These hands are so good. Now, Ashleigh's played, from my conversations with her, she's definitely played Modern over the last maybe 6 weeks. So she's definitely like gone through the ringer of decks in Canberra, but still had to toss up sort of what to discard with this initial Thoughtseize.
What do you believe is the most impactful card in your hand? Like, Cranial Plating is just an insane clock.
Arcbound Ravager is also quite a powerful card.
Yep.
I think we're only deciding between the two, just because we're deciding to go with Cranial Plating in this instance, but I think they're both equally as good. Cranial Plating has the opportunity to be much better though in this instance.
I think going with her sideboard strategy of bringing in a lot of creature removal, Cranial Plating is probably the correct choice, as she will have cards in her deck that can deal with the other cards in your hand.
And absolutely. So if you're like terminating the Ravager, and this is a turn 1 Ravager if I'm not mistaken, so it's either turn 1 Plating or turn 1 Ravager, but look, like I think it's turn 1. It's turn 1. So like she can deal with that Ravager, but she would have a lot harder time dealing with that Cranial Plating. I think you're absolutely right. Seeing this Ravager come down, and this is like an insane opening hand. Like I probably would have even played the Cranial Plating first, just because I'm greedy. But the Ravager is a perfectly good line to take as well. And we'll see what comes out of Ashleigh's hands. So we I took a little break from Legacy. A forced break from Legacy because. Was just sort of, I think it's maybe gone out of favor a little bit, but coming into Modern, I was enjoying it a lot, surprisingly. Like, it's not as powerful, but...
there's still a lot of diversity in the format.
Absolutely, and there's like lots of... here we see what we were talking about before with the Terminate coming down. Now it's suddenly much better to take the Cranial Plating, because we have to deal... Like, she has the opportunity to deal with this Ravager now. I'm taking a bit of an awkward line here where I'm sacking a couple of things onto Ravager and then sacking the Ravager for Ornithopter just so it can become a 2/4. I think Ashleigh's like probably happy to see this. If she's experienced, then she'll know that it means that I've got nothing. Like I've got no more payoff cards, and you see it now that I haven't been able to drop another payoff card. But essentially, Affinity is like separated into enablers and payoff cards, and having to put 2 counters onto a Ornithopter just to swing for 2 kind of means that very mediocre. Like I'm going to be swinging for a very small amount for the next few turns. So she kind of has an opportunity to start dropping some enchantments, and we
did see in the first game how explosive her hand could be potentially. So getting rid of the payoff cards, it could open the door for Ashleigh quite well here.
Something that's unique to this deck that isn't in usual decks is her inclusion of Simian Spirit Guide. Now, it's kind of okay. Do you have any thoughts on that, James? About
I think it probably just speeds up the deck. As we saw, it was quite fast and explosive, and I'm unsure of how much she will combo in a single turn utilizing it, but it may just be that it does speed up the deck, and Modern is quite a fast format. Being able to get in and combo off and rip everything from your opponent's hand before they manage to throw it down. I think it's quite a good inclusion from Ashleigh here.
Yeah, I think I tend to agree.
That's a pretty good looking sandwich you got there.
Yeah, look, I was very, very fortunate enough to have one of our co-hosts, Lachlan, just bring me some dinner. So I think I get a little bit rude at this point because I'm more concentrating on the sandwich than I am the game. So
magic and food.
Yeah, it's the combo. It's the ultimate combo. But from here, like, I have no plans. You know, like if I draw a payoff card, then great, I'll play it. But like for now, all I'm doing is turning my 1/1 sideways and hoping for the best. Like,
very much playing off the top of your deck right now.
Yeah, no kidding. So, I suppose we can see where a Simian Spirit Guide would kind of shine through this turn. Like she could play two more enchantments for 4 mana. But if she had another land, she could go 2 enchantments, Simian Spirit Guide, Burning Inquiry, and then I'd just lose the game. You know, like we could get very lucky with this hand. We'll see where it takes her. She's definitely got some time with the amount of 1/1s I have on the battlefield.
You are attacking for lethal next turn, if I'm not mistaken, because you've got the Vault Scourge, Ornithopter with 2 counters, and the Memnite and the Blood. Oh, help me out.
Moth.
The Blink Moth.
Yeah.
With that combined with the Battle Cry, that is 8 exactly.
Okay. So, I mean, look, it's the power of the deck, right? You're seeing a 0/1, a 1/1, 2 1/1s, and a 0/2 with 2 counters on it, and suddenly, like, that's lethal.
So Collective Brutality looks like the Vault Skirt. The
Signal Pest
Signal Pest,
dying,
that's the
yeah.
one.
I think Signal Pest is definitely the correct move here. Like the lifelink doesn't really matter when there's a Signal Pest on the battlefield. Like when the Signal Pest is gone, because like Signal Pest represents 1, 2, 3, 4 damage, and now my hand is even more dead. So you'll be able to see the sort of one-handed aspect of trying to eat a sandwich and deal what is not very much damage at one point. But we'll see where we go from here. Going straight to my second main phase after dealing just a small amount of damage, 3 total, and then playing another Vault Scourge. Definitely not as explosive as the 8 damage with the Signal Pest.
No. Although it is still lethal for next turn, so Ashleigh will need to play something here that will hopefully keep her in the game.
Yeah. She missed the 4th land drop, which is very unfortunate for her because... I mean, she's got a Simian Spirit Guide in hand, but if she wanted to do anything more, it might actually be time. She does have a Collective Defiance in her hand. It might be time to just bust that out, possibly kill. What are we thinking? Like I guess you're killing the Ornithopter at this stage. We're definitely using it. So Collective Defiance is red 1, escalate as pay 1, and she's opting to not pay 1 but use the Simian Spirit Guide for a Lightning Bolt. So she's just wiped to my board, but the options are discard your hand and draw that many cards, deal 4 damage to target creature or 3 damage to target opponent. And so you can pay 5 and do all 3 options. Very good card in this deck.
Yeah.
I think against the meta, like if you're versing anything,
it's quite an interesting inclusion. I haven't seen it played in Modern yet, but it's quite versatile in what it can do.
Absolutely. Now, I think if you're lucky enough to be versing a deck that actually cares about their hand and you make them discard 7 cards and draw 7 cards, that's that's pretty good. Unfortunately, possibly something to even consider taking out. It's just unfortunate that she's got so many dead cards in her hand, but she also does have to respect the turn 1 Thoughtseize, because to get the cranial plating. Like her getting the cranial plating, stopped her from losing this game.
Absolutely.
Or losing already.
If you had have landed that, she has not drawn another card that could have dealt with it.
Yeah. So very, very good turn one Thoughtseize from her. But then like the rest of the Thoughtseizes are just not as good.
Is that welding jar that's popped up again?
Yeah, I seem to be pretty lucky to do that one of each time. Now this is only 1, 2, 3 damage, but look, it's put it at 1.
And another infect.
Yeah, and another infect. My alright, and we're seeing the scoop from here. She was pulling from the top, so probably a bit unsatisfying having to spend 3 cards and 3 mana getting rid of 2 of my creatures, but that's just like the line that she had to take to stop herself from losing.
And that is definitely one of the downsides of Simian Spirit Guide. It does ramp you for a single turn. However, it is a card
that
out of your hand that could have been something else.
Absolutely.
So it is very much a trade-off to be running that in your deck.
Absolutely. I think if we were playing other cards, it's insane that she's not playing Liliana of the Veil. I think that's just a snap include in decks like this. Probably every black deck should be playing it, so especially a deck that cares about discarding. And she did honestly, she did mention that to me, that she was tossing up between Simian Spirit Guide and Liliana of the Veil, but I can totally understand those explosive starts.
Yeah, I think looking at the amount of damage she did in game 1, I think having the explosive strategy may be potentially better.
Totally.
It doesn't appear like she wants to be playing a long grindy game, in which case I do definitely think that the Simian Spirit Guide is the better inclusion in this deck choice.
All right, well, Ashleigh, we approve. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Please stay tuned, like and subscribe our channel. We'll be posting different formats and sort of testing out a few different theories. So if you like what you see, feel free to drop a line. Thanks, guys.